Thanks for joining us for this workshop on studying with AI, presented by JCC Library and Jaguar Tutoring. There are several general study techniques available for any subject. How can we use ChatGPT in conjunction with these proven study techniques to boost memory and understanding? The critical skill here is to create prompts that instruct ChatGPT to help a student study, manage time, retain information, and test understanding. In addition, it's important to consider how to use AI tools in a way that still upholds academic integrity and allows for the creation of accurate information. Prompt engineering is one of the most important aspects of working with AI. In order to get good results, you need to know how to set up your prompts. A few things to think about. Firstly, when working with AI, it's important to consider your intentions. What do you want to get out of it? To this end, begin with the end in mind by considering what your end goal is. Are you seeking deeper understanding of a topic? Do you want an outline to follow as you study? Are you looking for something to entertain you or other students? Build prompts that will guide the AI to those topics. Secondly, keep in mind that the quality of your prompt is directly proportional to the quality of your output. Garbage in equals garbage out. If you give the AI a basic prompt, it's not likely that it will give you the type of answer you're looking for. If you include specific details about what you want, the AI can get a better idea of what you're expecting. For example, if I ask it to tell me a story, I could get anything. If I ask it to tell me a story about a boy living in a forest who discovers a magical library and learns the power of friendship, I'm much more likely to get the kind of narrative I'm looking for. Finally, you should clarify responses and adjust the question as needed. Maybe it gave me a longer story and I need to keep it under about 400 words. Maybe I want to specify that the boy in my story is only 6 years old and the story should be written for small children. Maybe I want to make sure it includes at least one animal sidekick and a portal to another world. The more adjusting that I do with an AI model, the closer I can get to my end goal. Keep in mind that the AI can lose track of your original prompt after a lot of adjusting, so some course correction may be necessary. The first study method that we want to talk about is spaced repetition, which is reviewing information over increasing intervals of time to combat the forgetting curve. This will help you remember large amounts of information. You can use a ChatGPT prompt to create a learning schedule that reviews material over a set period of time. This can also be used as a review method to prepare for quizzes and exams, as well as an excellent time management tool. The forgetting curve is a tool that we use to think through how we remember information. If you look at this graph here, you'll see that the first time you learn something, you're going to forget about 50% of it within a day or two. So we remind ourselves throughout the week, incrementally, of each point that we want to remember. And ChatGPT and other AI tools like it can help us to create a schedule that cements that information fully into our brain. ChatGPT and other AI tools are great at helping to organize information, especially when you aren't quite sure where to begin. So for this example, I asked ChatGPT to create a study schedule for an exam that's being held in 2 weeks on the years spanning 1918 to 1939. I also asked it to repeat the most important topics to allow for better retention of course material. Here's the schedule that it gave me. You'll note that currently it's set up to review 5 days of information at once. This is the first chart that it gave me when I put it into ChatGPT. If that's too much for my brain to do in one go, and I need more frequent review sessions, I could easily use some prompt engineering to adjust my prompt to review every 3 to 4 days, or whatever interval works best for my brain. The second study method we want to highlight is the Feynman technique. This is a review method that breaks down complex concepts into simpler terms. For example, the student might assign themselves the role of a teacher, in ChatGPT the role of a high school student. Through prompt engineering, the teacher instructs ChatGPT on the topic, also instructs it to ask questions and seek clarification. The prompt can instruct ChatGPT to correct the teacher if they say anything wrong. By reversing this role, the student acting as the teacher is testing their understanding of the topic and their ability to articulate that understanding. So, let me show you what this looks like in practice. I've put the prompt into ChatGPT, and we're going to start having a conversation with this AI. I've asked it to correct me as I'm teaching it about the water cycle. He says, "Got it, I'm a high school student. Could you explain what the main steps of the water cycle are? Also, do plants play a role in the water cycle, or is it just ocean, clouds, and rain?" So I can respond that the main steps are evaporation, and just to see what happens, I'm going to throw something that's incorrect into the mix. And you see it's immediately corrected me. Almost right, there's a small correction. Exaltation is not one of the main steps in the water cycle. You might be thinking of precipitation. So this is something that I can use to work through topics to remind myself of what's correct and what isn't correct. ChatGPT is not always going to be right on everything, but this is a decent way to remind myself of some of those key points while teaching it to someone, or in this case, something else.
Another method is narrative creation. With this method, you will use a prompt to instruct ChatGPT to turn information into a story. Some argue that storytelling is an essential nature of human beings. It differentiates us from other animals. We are Homo narrans, a storytelling human. It has also been used to convey information through generations, such as with myths. Like when you use a song to memorize vocabulary, you can use stories to help you remember concepts. You can also include instructions in the prompt to make the narrative humorous, which aids in memory retention. Let's look at a demonstration. In this example, we are using a narrative story with characters to explain the more abstract concept of polynomial equations in math. The prompt should be specific and include what you already know or have learned about the topic. In this prompt, it wouldn't be helpful to include only the first part and not some of the elements that I want help with, because I could get false information or more information than I want, and it could be confusing. When I entered this prompt, ChatGPT output a story that compared polynomial equations to magic spells. Each element of the equation corresponds to an element of a spell. It explained how the properties of each element and manipulating them affected the spell or the equation. After the initial output, I had to review the information for mistakes by comparing them to credible sources like a textbook. Then you refine your prompts to tailor. Maybe it has too many details, or it left out an element that I know I want to include in my study guide. As we mentioned, you must verify all AI output for accuracy. Here are a couple of ways to do that. First, cross-check the information, like specific names and dates, with authoritative sources like scholarly sources or your textbook. AI will sometimes provide information that is inconsistent within the same response, or pull from sources that are outdated. Make sure that the response is up to date and consistent. If it includes citations such as links or references from other sources, confirm that they exist and are credible. Often, AI will generate titles and authors for sources that do not exist, or they will inaccurately represent existing sources. Make sure you read sources yourself to understand its meaning, instead of relying on the AI's summary. If no citations are provided, ask for them. When they are provided, follow the same steps to verify. Before you use AI on an assignment, always consult guidelines provided by the class, instructor, and the institution first. They may allow varying uses of AI or require you to use and cite it in a specific way. Always ask if you're unsure. Here are some general guidelines for avoiding AI and how to cite it when you are allowed to use it. Only use AI as a resource to create outlines and brainstorm. You should not rely on it to generate the final text or content that you are submitting, even if you plan to edit it later. Your voice is unique and can only come from you. If you are able to use generative AI, be sure to cite it properly. Here are examples of MLA and APA citations for prompts and the generated content. Notice how both citations include the prompt, your original writing, and the AI program, in this case, ChatGPT. As we've shown here, AI is a helpful study tool for scheduling study times, testing your knowledge, and brainstorming memory techniques. But like most other tools, we cannot rely on AI to do the work for us. Set yourself up for success by entering thoughtful prompts and verifying any information that is generated instead of taking it at face value. Before using generative AI as a reference in an assignment, confirm with your instructor that you're allowed to. And when you are, be sure to cite your reference properly in the required format style. Thank you for joining us for this workshop on studying. Please reach out to Jaguar Tutoring with any questions.